This Sony 10-18mm f4 lens probably doesn't need any introduction for most of you that have been using E-mount cameras for a while. But now that the Sony ZV-E10 has come out, I figured it's probably a good time to revisit it because I think it's the perfect companion lens for this camera. Now I've got a full review coming out of the Sony ZV-E10, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But for now, let's just take a look at this awesome little ultra-wide lens and what it can do. Let's first talk about the build quality of this lens. It is feather light. I mean ultra light. You won't even notice you have this on your camera. The zoom and focus rings are nice and smooth. They're grippy. You don't have any electronic control over these when you attach it like the 16-50mm kit lens for the ZV-E10. But that's not a big deal. The lens does come with an included lens hood, which just snaps on the front, which is kind of nice to cut down on lens flare and glare and things like that. It has a 7-blade round aperture in the back, which will give you some decent bokeh, but because it's an ultra-wide lens, you're not really gonna have a lot of bokeh in the background of your lens anyway, just because of the focal length of this lens. It does have built-in OSS, which is the optical steady shot from Sony. So this gives you a little bit of extra stabilization for cameras that might not have it. It'll steady out your shot. There's no weather sealing on this lens, so do not take it out in the rain. It can get damaged. Maybe a light mist, but I would even be cautious against that. One other thing that's worth mentioning is this has a constant f4 aperture. So when you zoom in from 10 to 18mm, you're not gonna lose any light when you're zooming in. Plus f4 is decent. It's not the fastest lens in the world, but f4 is pretty good for low light. All right, now let's talk optics because that's the most important thing with a lens, right? So it's a 10 to 18mm ultra wide zoom lens. This gives you a ultra wide field of view. Now, if you are pairing it with this Sony ZV-E10, that's gonna be the equivalent of a 15 to 27mm on this APS-C size sensor, which is great because the 16 to 50mm kit lens that comes with this camera is not really that great for vlogging. You want something a little bit wider. And I'm gonna get to some vlogging examples here in just a few minutes, but I also wanna talk about this lens is also tack sharp. I mean, really super sharp. It's great when it comes to taking photos and shooting videos as far as sharpness goes. Now it is worth mentioning that there is some barrel distortion, especially at the 10mm focal length. That's nothing that can't be fixed in post or with a camera that has built-in distortion control, but it is, problematic, but that's nothing that you shouldn't expect from an ultra-wide lens like a 10mm anyway, so just be ready for that. Now I just took some photos while I was walking around here, so why don't I share those with you right now so you can see just how great the sharpness and color and overall optic quality is. Pretty cool, right? Now let's do a little bit of an actual walking vlog test with this lens on the Sony ZV-E10, just so you can see exactly how great it is at getting a wider field of view, and I'll compare it with the 16 to 50 kit lens. All right guys, so this is the 10 to 18mm at 10mm on the Sony ZV-E10, vlogging around. I'm going to switch over to the 16 to 50 kit lens just so you can see the difference. You'll notice that it's a lot more cropped in and tighter. If you want to have a nice wide field of view for your vlogging so that everyone that's watching you can see where you are, you're gonna need a big wide lens like this. This 10 to 18mm is the lens you wanna get, trust me. I'm gonna switch over to the 16 to 50 now so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the 16 to 50mm lens on the Sony ZV-E10 now, and you can tell it's a lot tighter. Now, on this handle that I've got, I've got a pretty good reach, so it's wide, right? But it's not quite wide enough, at least not for me. Now, if you were to punch in all the way to the 50 millimeter, this is like a 70 millimeter equivalent, and that's just useless. So yeah, this is the 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens in comparison to the 10 to 18. And why don't I put that 10 to 18 back up as a side-by-side while I'm walking around here with the 16 to 50, so you can really see a side-by-side comparison. Hold on, let me get this steady here. So you can really see a side-by-side comparison of what the two lenses look like when compared to each other. And you'll notice that the 10 to 18 is just much wider, and I think it just shows off the world a little bit more. But that's up to you if you want to spend the extra dough for the lens. I think it's worth it. It takes great photos, it shoots great video. So, I don't know, it's your decision. I like the 10 to 18. So, overall, this 10 to 18 millimeter lens is an incredible value, and I highly recommend getting one, especially if you've got the Sony ZV-E10. It'll really give you just this excellent wide angle view, and just, I think, really just help your viewers get into your vlogs a little bit more so they can be in your world with you. And right now, trust me, you're jealous you're not in this world with me right now, because this salted caramel ice cream that I'm eating right now is ridiculous. See you guys in the next one.